Today's video is about carbide tools and how I avoid having bad catches. You either love them or you hate them. Also, make sure you stick around as I will show some large scrapers I made and some very large patterns that I turned using them. And at the end, a bonus turning using a carbide tool on a piece of wood that Dave from Calm Wood Creations gave me. So let's get going. Okay, well, that was a pretty nasty catch, and here's a couple of the pieces that broke off. And this was intentional. I've been asked a couple times where to put the tool, specifically with carbide, to avoid getting a catch, both on the inside and the outside. So I've got another piece I'm going to set up in the lathe, and I'll show you why you get the catch and also why you don't get the catch. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get the other piece set up. So I'll be right back. So I've got a piece of scrap wood here. I turned the diameter on the outside and the inside, and I'll use this to show you how I decide which side of that line I want the cutter to be on using a carbide tool or just a scraper. So below is not where you want to be on the outside. Just looking at this, I'm below center line, and I'm taking probably almost an extra 1/8 inch of material than what I plan on taking before I even make my cut. So I take a cut, I'll be taking all that until this comes around, and we'll be taking that, and here's what happens. You'll get almost an instant catch. That's lifting that handle up. I got my hand over here. That's a catch right there. If you're using a smaller tool, same thing. I'm not doing that. That's caught, and it can literally pull your tool down there and give you a lot of adrenaline running through your body. Here's what happens if you get it in the right spot. And I'll show you that is the center. I've got that keyed in there. So that's still below. And I know that's above. We'll go just a little bit above just to show you. And sometimes I turn that far above. So if it's up there, it's cutting. So that's not a very quality piece of wood, but you can see that it's actually not catching. I'm barely hanging onto this tool like that, and it cuts. So that's my theory on how to do this. And when I get done with this, I'll show you the tools I used at work, and that's where I figured out what side you need to cut on to keep from getting catches. They're big tools, and I'll show you one of the turnings I did. It's a big turning as well. Let's get set up and do the inside, and it's the same thing but in reverse. I'm set up on the inside now, and it's just the opposite. On the inside, you don't want to be above like you do on the outside, and the reason is, if you can see where that cutter is, we have all this stock above here rotating down, and as soon as you get a cut, it's expecting that you're going to cut all that above it. And what's it going to do? It's going to catch like that. Doesn't matter the shape of the tool. Here's a diamond point. You're cutting in here. It's caught. There's a catch, and it is not going to take that wood away without digging in and getting a catch. So the inside is the opposite for getting a catch. We're going to get that below center, which I am, and this should just cut, which it's doing. It's not catching, it's cutting. You're cutting with a controlled cut now. I could probably even show you. no catches. So that's how I do it. On the inside, you can go below. On the outside, above. If you do the opposite on those sides, you're going to get a catch. A good chance of it. I've made a drawing here on this chalkboard. That's an 18-inch diameter, and that's the outside wall, inside wall. That's the center line of the piece. I'll show this with the cutter down below, and I'll be exaggerating that amount so it's easier to see. If I'm cutting that far below, this stock here is on this side of the cutter, so you're trying to take too much, it loads it up, the shavings aren't getting out of the way, and you get a catch. If you come up to the top now, again, this is exaggerated, you can see all of this material is out of the way. So whatever you're cutting here is going to cut, and you don't have that stock driving into there, so you shouldn't get a catch. Now, there's never a guarantee that you won't get a catch, but for me, I feel more comfortable doing it above the center. Let's go ahead and go to the inside, and I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so on the inside, it's pretty much the opposite of the outside. There's a center line, and if I'm below the center, and again, this is an exaggeration, I'm not trying to say you go that far down. You just need to be below it. But here's the tip. Here's the material. It's on that side of the tip, so it should not load up and catch. On the inside, it's just the opposite. The material's on this side. You have that possibility of it catching because you're not getting a good cut. You're trying to take too much at one time. So I hope that explains it a little better than looking at the piece that I was actually cutting. And I have to go in the house. It's 23 degrees out right now. I just wanted to show you that. So if it warms up this afternoon, I have a few other things I want to show you. I'll go ahead and show you some of the tools that I learned how to turn patterns on at work. This is a piece of stellite. It's 1 1/4 inch wide and 3/8 thick. It's pretty stout. Stellite is really a good tool. I ground this to a diamond point, and that's for cutting accurately, because we never used any bowl gouges at work for patterns because they're made for making really pretty things, but we had to make things exactly like the drawing said. So when I learned how to use these, I had to quickly learn on which side of the center line that it should be. Otherwise, you would get a catch that would really wake you up, and the adrenaline will go through your body the rest of the day when you get a catch on a 6-foot diameter turning. And yes, I have done that. But that was many years ago. This is a piece of Sheffield steel that I got a hold of, and I cut a kind of a radius on there, and I'll show you a turning that I did using this tool and that tool, and a few other tools. I don't know if you noticed that yellow paint on there. We used yellow paint when we painted the core prints on the pattern so that the foundry knew what was the core print and what was the main part of the casting. Fun stuff. I could wipe that off, but I like it. Okay, that's kind of my take on catches, and like I say, it was many years ago that I had to learn that. So this is a decent sized turning that I used those large scrapers on, and you certainly do not want to get a catch on this guy. So this is the finished pattern, and I added a lot of features that were on the drawing, and I'll show you the casting here real quick. You're looking at the finished titanium casting, and it's domed out on the back side of that as well. This is the small shop where I served my apprenticeship, and that's probably the largest overall turning that I did. It ended up over 6 foot in diameter and 3 feet deep by the time I was done gluing the rest of it on. And I used those same large scrapers that I showed you. So I've think I got enough time to go ahead and do a little turning using carbide tools, because I've been asked before, well, do you dislike carbide tools or do you like them? And I think they're great. I do use them for lots of things. This is a blank that I got from Dave from Calmwood Creations. I think it was towards the end of 2017, and Dave at the time lived across the river from where I do. It's about 12 miles away. So we had it all set up to meet there, and he asked if I wanted to do a twice turn bowl, and he had done this a few years prior to that. So let's see if we can use nothing but carbide tools and go ahead and cut this. Let's go ahead and finish this rough turn bowl that Dave gave me, and it was marked Laurel on there. I went ahead and made the tenon round, and we'll get it mounted up and use nothing but the carbide tool. I will say that one place I use carbide tools would be on dizzy bowls, because there's so much end grain, and sometimes, depending on what the wood is, the carbide tool does a better job. So I definitely have a use for them. So I think I'll use this mid-size round carbide cutter for the whole thing. About 850 RPM using the mid-size carbide tool, the round one. Alright, I've got it set up just about right on center, and I didn't mention on the bottom of a flat, dead center is probably what works best for me. So I can be a little bit below here and slightly below there, and it's fine. Well, I think we just turned us a bowl. Okay, I'll show you one more tool. And this is a scraper, but it's ground on both sides, and that's called a negative rake scraper. It really does a nice job of cleaning up areas that you're having trouble with. And if you're only using carbide, to me this would be a great addition. But I mostly use bowl gouges, and it's still a great addition for me. Having that angle on the top really helps to prevent catches as well over the normal scrapers. And I put this one right on center. I'll show you a little bit of the cuts here and the fine shavings that come off of it. Doing about 750 RPM. See if I can do this without getting in the way. So those are the shavings that just came off of this scraper. So they do cut as well. Those are not little chips coming off. Those are actual shavings. I just wanted to show you that. I'm going to get this sanded up and get a finish on it. Well, it warmed up to about 40, so I sanded it up. I got some Zinsser seal coat on it. That's the sanding sealer. I used the Acks abrasive paste on it, and now I'm using the polish restoring paste. I'll get this all buffed out so you can have a look at it. And then we'll be through with this. The turning wasn't really planned, but I thought I should at least use the carbide tools completely on a bowl. And there it is, and it looks really nice. Very pretty piece of wood. Thank you, Dave. So the carbides can come in all kinds of shapes. Little round ones, square ones. You've got the ones that have a diamond shape. You can get it like this. They'll all catch. And it's all about the positioning. Now, what I'm doing here is how I do it. You may do it differently and it might work great for you. So I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. It's just how I do it. If you have a way to do this and not get a catch, leave it in the comments. We all love to learn something new. And these are just, they're considered scrapers. No different than this tool here. That's a scraper. That's also a scraper. It's that negative rake on there that keeps it from taking that big bite if you're in the wrong place. You still don't want to put this in the wrong place. This works for me best right on center. You saw how that little carbide cut this bowl. It is a beautiful piece of laurel. It feels like a piece of glass. Even with those knots, the carbides didn't rip them out. So that's just wanted to show you how they actually work for me. So that's it. And it was cold yesterday. It's cold right now, but I needed to finish this up. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like the video, do me a favor and click that like button. And while you're there, it would be great if you could share the video around. Those two things will really help my channel grow. Leave a comment. I read them all and I do my best to answer them all. Thanks to all my subscribers. And if you're not, please consider doing so. I do a mix of all types of turnings. Some are simple and some are complex. So let me know your favorite. Thanks again, and until the next time, see you later.